In this example, we're going to use tenths and hundredths grids. So this is really a unit. This is a unit, and it's a hundredths grid because it's broken into hundredths or 100 pieces. But we're also going to use the idea of tenths, those orange strips that we used, to think of things in terms of 10 equal parts, or we'll look at 100 equal parts. So for now, we're connecting this out of language to fraction numbers, which we've already talked about, and we're focusing on ones that are tenths and hundredths so we can connect these ideas to decimals later on. So let's read the directions. The big square represents the unit. So this is the big square. Shade the following quantities on the grids below. Then write the quantities in terms of orange strips and yellow squares, the fraction word name, and the fraction number name. So remember, I'm going to make a little sketch. An orange strip looked like this. It was top to bottom. Okay, so now it's broken in 10 more pieces. That doesn't mean that's an orange. One whole column is going to be an orange strip, which is 1/10. And yellow squares would be one of these yellow squares, which is 1/10 of an orange strip, which is 1 out of 100. Okay. So let's start on the first one. 6 out of 10 equal parts. Use orange strips as a unit fraction. So that means that we're going to do 6 columns. So there's our first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Now I'm going to go up to the top. This might take a second for you as well. Hopefully your highlighter works better. So this is 6 out of 10. Okay? And try to take note of the relative area compared to the whole. So this is 1. This is 6 out of 10, which is less than 1. And it's a little bit bigger than 1/2 of this unit because a half would go to here. So now let's answer the questions. So the number of orange strips, well, that would be 6. The fraction number, well, since an orange strip is 1/10 and we have 6 orange strips, this would be 6 over 10. The fraction word name is 6/10. And then it asks us the equivalent number of yellow squares. So remember, a yellow square would be one of these. Okay, so we didn't shade them yellow, but we can imagine thinking of it in terms of the unit fraction as being 1 out of 100. This would be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 little yellow squares would be the equivalent shaded amount. Let's look at the next one. 40 out of 100 equal parts, and it asks us to use yellow squares as the unit fraction. So I'm going to use the yellow highlighter, and now I'm going to count by this. So this is 1. So here we had 1 orange strip was an entire column. Here, 1 yellow square is just 1 yellow square, 1 little square, and I need 40 of them. But I know that this is 10, because each column has 10. Then we have 20, 30, and 40. And again, I'm shading from left to right, but you could shade any 40 yellow squares you want to. Okay, now let's answer the questions. So the number of yellow squares is 40, because each square is 1 out of 100, and we shaded 40 out of the 100. The fraction number would be the 40 over 100, because we did 40 out of 100, which is 40 hundredths. And that's how we say the word name, 40 for the numerator, and hundredths with the THS at the end for the denominator of 100. And now they ask us to find the equivalent number of orange strips. Well, if we had done this in orange strips, notice there'd be 1, 2, 3, 4 orange strips. Okay, so notice this relationship that we discussed in the first two videos about tenths and 100ths. Okay, one orange strip is 10 times as large as 1/100th, and one yellow square is 1/10 of an orange because it takes 10 yellows to make an orange. So these relationships are going to be important, and you may remember them from place value from number sense 1. Okay. Let's look at a few more problems. 37 out of 100 equal parts. Use yellow squares as the unit fraction. So I'm going to shade 37. I'm going to do the first 30 from left to right. And please feel free to try these on your own. Then for the 7, I'm going to start at the bottom in the next column. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And again, you could shade any 7. The reason I'm starting from the bottom up is because this is how the Math computer problems will want you to do it. So the number of yellow squares is 37. Our fraction number, 37 out of 100, is 37 over 100. The fraction word name is 37 and hundredths with the THS at the end. And now it asks for the equivalent number of orange strips and yellow squares. So we're going to think if we wanted to use the minimum amount of pieces, we would want to use as many orange strips as possible, and we would use 1, 2, this would be 3 orange strips. I'll just put 3 orange. And here we couldn't use a full orange strip, we would have to use 7 yellow squares. So 3 orange and 7 yellow, Y for yellow. Okay, so that's an equivalent way of thinking about this. Last one, we have 5 out of 10 and 3 out of 100 equal parts. Use both orange strips and yellow squares. So when I think of out of 10, that's when we use an orange strip because an orange strip is 1/10. So this would be 1/10 of the whole. Again, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you want to shade in the first 5 columns with orange, and this would be 5 orange strips, or 5 out of 10. And then we want 3 out of 100. For this, we'd have to use yellow squares because these are 100ths. And there are our 3. So now we're asked the number of orange strips and yellow squares. So we had 5 orange plus 3 yellow to make 5 out of 10 and 3 out of 100. Now what's the fraction number? So we don't want to write, so for the orange strips we wrote 5 tenths and 3 hundredths, but we want to write a single number. So now we're going to extend this idea, just like this was 37 out of 100 equal parts. Even though these are orange, now we're going to look at the individual squares. And remember, this is 50 individual squares if we made it in yellow, and then we have 3 more. So as a fraction number, we're going to write this as 53 over 100. Okay, and this is so we don't have to write it as a sum or a combined amount. The fraction word name would be 53 hundredths. And the equivalent number of yellow squares, so if we had shaded these all yellow and counted them individually, it would be 53 yellow squares.